Oh my goodness, that was such an electric finish. We had so many crazy swings where you thought maybe Eagle might take the win. No, maybe AB is going to take the win. It was such a crazy finish. But there was one moment in particular in this tournament that I want to talk about the most. Let's get into it. So without a doubt, you can definitely say that this was the most erratic tournament I think we've ever seen. There was a point where you thought, yeah, Paul's probably going to take it down because like an 800 start, that's just way in his wheelhouse to get the win. And looking at scores, if he actually would have gone 8 under every single round, he would have only been 1 stroke behind Corey. So it definitely goes to show that consistency is what truly matters most. And another thing to note was that Corey was only 4 under in his first round. I don't think anybody was predicting him to take it down, but this course really is all about consistency. So there really is so many players I could talk about, but I think I'm gonna limit myself to just the top 6-ish. And I say 6 because there's a couple of players. There really is so much to unpack here, and it really is evidence for how much crazy swings were happening in this tournament. And first up would be Calvin. I definitely thought like this is gonna be the one time where he breaks the curse, figures out how to play in a major final round, and I was just like, yes, he can do it, he can do it. I'm actually predicting him to be a lock. But in classic Calvin fashion, he was actually only even through 12 holes, and if you're even in the final round with so many good players in the field, that is just not going to cut it. So even though he got 4 out of the last 6 holes birdied, it just was not enough to make the cut, and it is hilarious that a bad finish for him is just 1 off of the podium. And even though his putting wasn't particularly good, I think the major issue here was just getting it off the tee. There was just no great looks that he was having, so he was forced to do circle 2 putts, and he was missing the circle 2 putts. And accuracy is extremely important on this course, so there was just no way he was going to make a push for the win. But still a great finish, 30 under, and maybe Worlds will be the place where he gets his first major. We'll just have to see. Overall, good stuff. Next up would be Eagle, and with an early double, I did not predict him to be really in the mix much at all, but knowing that he is kind of the GOAT on this course, he just dialed in his shots off the tee, and while he was making some pretty long circle 1 bids, he was only able to make all those birdies because of his insanely good drives. And besides some OBs that he got in the end of the round, it was a great round for him with a total of 12 birdies. If he was just able to clean up those OBs just a little bit, he would definitely have a push for the win, but also ended in 4th place. And he really is the antithesis of putting will totally change your game if you can get your putts dialed in from any position, because he basically made every circle 1 putt look like it was easy, even though it was on the edge of circle so many times. But overall, his tournament ended with 13 OBs, 5 of those being in round 3, and that will just not cut it. Next up, the sneaky GOAT that I thought might get a win in the most insane fashion, and that is Ezra Aderhold. He is just so good off the tee, gaining 17 strokes from tee to green, and with his insane power, he was able to lace these fairways, and in ironic fashion, his biggest win and biggest detriment would be his putting. He was able to jam in a 49-footer in round 3 and 2 ridiculously clutch putts towards the end of the final round, but with 1 double on hole 11 on the final round, he was just too far out of position to make a push for the win. But still a great finish for Ezra. I think this really marks a good point in his career where he is fighting for the win, which was not really the case in previous years. He was just in contention for the win. Now he is truly fighting for it, and it shows that he has a good level of consistency that was not there before. But still, a continuing trend is a lack of consistent putting, so if he can clean that up, he will definitely make a push towards a lot more Pro Tour wins. And besides Ricky, he was far and away one of the best throwers from tee to green, and that really allowed him to get some very easy birdies throughout this entire tournament. So now we have the big 3 contenders, Corey Ellis, Kyle Klein, and Anthony Barela. So with 3 holes to go, Anthony Barela had a 1-stroke lead against Corey Ellis and a 3-stroke lead against Kyle Klein. And it was even mentioned by Philo that if he can just lock up this birdie, then it is probably a done deal and AB will get his first major. So Kyle made a very good upshot on 16, putting him in perfect birdie range. So then it was up to Corey and Anthony to decide who will take this win, because it is probably unlikely to be Kyle with a couple of strokes behind. So with Anthony being so close to the out of bounds, he really didn't have too much room on his run up, and I think this hindered him from allowing him to throw his normal walk up forehand, but he still has so much tremendous power that it really wasn't an issue about distance. It was more so, how can I get it to the actual island? Because one thing about Anthony is while he does have tremendous distance and tremendous accuracy for putting, his accuracy for drives may not necessarily be the best of the best. And this was showcased on 16 because his upshot was off the mark. And with him being very frazzled, pretty much the peak of intensity in disc golf, pretty much the equivalent to USDGC at hole 17, fighting for a win. This is as intense as it gets. And we know AB to be a player that does do well under stress, but doesn't do the best in certain situations. And once he falls off once, it is really hard for him to get back on the horse. And after his first shot going out of bounds, he had not one, not two, not three, not four, not five, but 6 more throws. And with his 7th throw getting on the island, allowing him to finally make a putt, it put him at 4 over on the hole, basically putting him out of contention and going from first to essentially like 6th or 7th. So he was totally at a loss because it kind of looked like it was just an easy upshot for him. And I thought, yeah, I know this is a little difficult, but knowing him and knowing how good he was playing, I thought, yes, this is probably going to be an easy shot for him. And after he finally made it inside circle, it was up to Corey Ellis to decide what his fate will look like. And knowing how he does in pressure also, not the greatest, flashing back to Maple Hill, hole 18, easy upshot, he goes way past into the OB and loses it to Simon. I think this is definitely a situation where we expect him to maybe falter, but that was not the case. He threw a tremendous accuracy and confidence and had a perfect hyzer right up to the basket, getting an easy birdie. And with that, it was basically just birdie one of the next 2 holes and Corey will become a major champion. But hole 17 is by no means an easy hole, so he was forced to throw a very difficult line. He had a flip up buzz shot that went so clean, went right up to circle, and it was basically a lock after that. Even though Kyle had a very good forehand that got right up to circle as well, hole 18 is just not a hole that you really take too many high numbers on. So he was able to get a pretty easy par for 18. And so even though Kyle birdied 18, Corey got his first major championship as the winner of the European Open. And I am so excited for him. He seems like one of the best people in the disc golf community, and it's always such a great thing when a positive influence gets to actually get a major championship under their belt. And I'm just so happy for Corey Ellis and his tremendous efforts that he's put in. And during his winning interview, he was asked about like how he was able to do so well at this course because he's never actually been to this course before. And he basically just said, like, I stuck to my game. I didn't try to do anything crazy. And he was a fairway machine. And he also mentioned that it was very similar to his courses back at home with the very uneven hill terrain, and I think that helped him to feel a little bit more comfortable in these crazy lines with so much of an audience. It was mentioned during coverage that they said there was about 4,000 to 5,000 people watching, so I cannot believe the stress you'd be under during that type of round, but it did not matter because Corey played lights out with a 10 under to win. But the champ Corey Ellis lit it up in classic Paul fashion, where you start off a little slow, ended with 4 under to start the tournament. I don't think anybody was really counting on him to be the winner of this tournament after round 1, but with an 11 under, 8 under, and 10 under, that is just such a tremendously good comeback. And kind of like Kyle and Anthony, you expect the stress to affect these players a little bit more than what they did, but Corey showed no signs of stress, no signs of wavering, even with some tremendously unlucky spitouts. He did not flinch and really rose up in the moment. So on to Kyle. He definitely played probably the most consistent if you discount round 2, averaging about 10 under besides round 2, but I think the real highlight for him is just the immense consistency that he was having. He only had 2 OB throws every single round besides his round 2, and he had 100% circle 1 in round 1 and 90% C1 in round 3 and 4. And with the tremendous stress that he must be under, I think this is a definite demonstration of how good he is, and he made so many of these shots just look effortless. So I think his form is really improving, even though it was already so good before. Really, the only critique is just consistency from his round 2. All this is definitely one of the most interesting and most engaging events I think I've ever watched, and it made me feel so much like we were in Worlds 2021, where everybody was just dialed in and you had no clear winner. There was no point where you thought, oh yeah, this player's gonna run away with it. That was just not the case. Having so much parity in the field allowed for this tremendous event to occur, and not only that, but you had so many great fans that cheered for everybody, and every time there was a good putt, there were just roars going on, especially when Eagle and Makala made their putts. There was just so much love from Finland. And I think this really helps the European scene to really show how important disc golf is to them, and I really wish we could have some more events on the tour in Europe, but I know there's so many stipulations to why that is not the case at this point in time, but I would love to see more of these events happen. So with that, what do you guys think? Did you at all expect Corey Ellis to be the champ? I definitely did not have it on my bingo card. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Be sure to subscribe. I have a lot of crazy stuff coming, especially one major announcement that is definitely in the works for this month that I think very few people will have guessed, and I think you will like it. So thank you for watching. Wild Runs signing out. Peace.